Welcome to the Unriveted podcast, where we talk about digital transformation, artificial intelligence, and people. Today's podcast is brought to you in part by our book, AI in a Weekend, an Executive's Guide. Please click and buy and make us very wealthy. John, with that, would you introduce our guest?
All right. Thank you, Martin. Always the pitch man. So thanks for the info on the book. Today we are joined by Dr. Mark van Rijmenam, who is a strategic futurist and the digital speaker. So Mark is joining us today from Australia, I believe. And thanks for being on the show, Mark. As we typically do, we'd like to turn it over to you as our guest and let you give us a little quick background on yourself and how you ended up where you are. And then we'll dive into the conversation. So I'll turn it over to you, Mark. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having us, Martin and John. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the show. So, yes, I am Dr. Mark van Rijmenam. I'm a strategic futurist, which means that I think about the future from a technology perspective. So I look at how new technologies such as AI, quantum, the metaverse, and many other technologies are changing our society, are having an effect on organizations around the world. I'm a keynote speaker, so I travel the world. I'm fortunate enough to visit all continents and many countries on a regular basis to help organizations and governments sort of understand what's happening within this space. At the same time, I really like to practice what I preach to be able to understand what are sort of the implications of these technologies, how they will have a good, a bad, and an ugly effect on what we do, how we live, how we work. So that's why I created the brand, The Digital Speaker. I am present in the digital void. So I have a digital twin that actually speaks 29 different languages, and you can talk to me via text, audio, and video. It's the first person in the world to do that. I delivered the first TED Talk in virtual reality 4 years ago, which is quite exciting. And I'm currently building a new media platform called FutureWise, where we help you move from chaos to clarity in this deluge of information and misinformation and this vast disruption that we see in society. And we help you understand what's happening using hyper-personalized insights. So that keeps me busy. And I've written a few books, and I'm currently working on my 6th book.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Thinking about some of the areas that you probably think about daily, like the future landscape. Here we are in 2025. What do you believe will be really critical for enterprise companies to be moving on now? And what could we expect when we link AI to their future?
Well, that's a very good question to start with, because there's so much disruption happening at this moment. It's incredible. Everyone talks about artificial intelligence at the moment, and that's, of course, sort of the foundation of all the disruption that's happening, because it's sort of what powers all the other technologies. But there's so many technologies converging, from robotics to quantum computing, spatial intelligence, 3D printing, biology. So there's so many technologies that are having an impact on the enterprise that it becomes really crucial for organizations to become aware of what's happening, to sort of start to uncover the signals that are out there, to understand where the future is heading for their specific industry, for their specific organization. I think that's sort of the most crucial component that organizations need to start doing, is understanding what's happening. And then from understanding what's happening, you can then start to adapt your organization and incorporate these technologies, such as the upcoming AI agents, which are poised to really have a big impact in 2025 and really change how we work, the work that we do, and it will have a big impact on the economic activity of organizations. But I think with all that disruption, it is really important to be able to verify what's happening, because there's so much, as I said already, misinformation happening. Just today, Facebook announced that they have killed their fact-checking organization within Facebook. So very problematic, I think. So misinformation is crucial. And from there on, eventually, we need to start empowering everyone, all stakeholders, to embrace these technologies and prepare for what's happening. Because seriously, if you're not paying attention and empowering your stakeholders, you will be left behind in the years to come.
Oh, yes. Let me unpack one more, and then I'll hand over to John. and then we'll go back and forth here. What do you think are some of the biggest hurdles for many of the multinational enterprises to be cognizant, considerate about AI and an impact, and what may they need to do to overcome this?
Well, I think it all starts with education, especially in a world that changes so rapidly. Where yesterday's invention is tomorrow's mass product, if you're not paying attention, if you snooze, you lose. So within at every level within your organization, everyone needs to be aware of what's happening. How is AI changing? How is AI having an impact on the work that we do within our organization? How is it going to have an impact on our industry? What can we learn from that? How can we embrace this in a way that is beneficial to our organization, but also to the wider stakeholders, as everything is interconnected in this world? So I think that's really, really crucial, that as an organization, you educate all your stakeholders, which means your first and foremost your employees and your leadership team of what's happening, but also your customers, also your shareholders. How is this going to impact the business? And once you have a good understanding of what's happening, then you can start moving forward. But a lot of organizations sort of lack that understanding because they're just sort of a fight or a flight or fight mode we are in, because there's so much disruption happening that nobody really knows what to do anymore. And I think that's sort of the challenge for 2025.
Yep. Totally agree with that. It's a balance between the hard technical skills and the soft skills, and I think typically the technical skills are what receive the lion's share of attention when people think of AI, because it's just inherently a technical topic. And when I started out in the field in machine learning, it was a very gradual learning curve for me. And then I would say sometime around the end of maybe 2022, when people started using ChatGPT, and then all through 2023 and 2024, just trying to keep up, trying to keep pace with everything changing, and all these new models and all these new developments and applications became so much more an exponential growth compared to when I was learning machine learning, which obviously is a part of AI, but big change and very hard to manage. So thinking again, about AI and maybe getting a little bit more specific in 2025, are there any particular or maybe impactful applications that you see at the enterprise level for using AI? And that can, again, be from like a purely technical standpoint, or even from like a people management, which could be like customer experience. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think 2025 we'll really see the transition of from generative AI that allows us to create content, to create images, text, even videos, or even entire immersive virtual worlds, to AI agents. Agents that can work together with each other, that can solve complex problems, and can really take over major parts of the job that we humans normally do. And that's going to be very, very transformative. Maybe not so much in this year, because it takes time for these AI agents to become better, for organizations to play with them, to experiment with them, to integrate them in the work processes. But certainly the years afterwards, we will see these AI agents becoming a lot more advanced, a lot better at collaborating with each other, a lot better at managing itself, and as such, become better able at solving complex problems. At the same time, I think the more we humans are exposed to these AI agents, we will also become better at managing that relationship, at managing the relationship with AI, at understanding what our role as humans is when we talk about integrating AI agents in the workforce. Because I do believe that there's fortunately still a role for us humans within organizations. And we are the ones who should manage these AI agents and not the other way around. So, short answer: AI agents is definitely going to be the big thing this year, and they will be integrated in the coming years everywhere, at every part of every organization.
Makes sense. Yeah, agentic AI has been a main focus for my research and interests as well, and that's all people are talking about in 2025 is moving away from the novel, kind of proof of concept use cases that AI was being used for maybe through 2024 and into how do I actually add value to my organization using these tools, and move into incorporating them in workflows that currently exist. Uh,
Which is, by the way,
so,
which is
building
absolutely
on.
fascinating if you look at this, because only 2 years ago we had the introduction of ChatGPT. That's only
Mhm.
2 years
Yeah.
ago, November 2022. And the amount of progress that we have seen in the past 2 years is just absolutely mind blowing. And that's only going to speed up because, as I like to say, we've crossed into the second half of the chessboard. So now we are at exponential territory. So everything is moving faster and faster, and everything is going to move faster and faster. Sort of a compounding interest of innovation that will completely change everything that we do.
I like how you describe we're at the other side of a chessboard. I like to also lay out that I think this chessboard is multidimensional, and it has three levels at least or more. It's not limited by the levels, and we're just tapping second level and third level application of this, and that includes mining your data and cleansing your data, and along that vein, one of the areas where it might become interesting is the role of synthetic data and how that could be used at an enterprise level for great advantage. Have you delved into that area and considered what are some of the impacts we might need to think about?
Well, I think you strike a good point because data, in the end, is the absolute foundation of all these things that are happening at the moment. Because without the data, we can't do anything. Without the data, we can't understand our customers. We can't improve our processes. So we need to have the data, and we need to have high quality data that we can actually trust and that we can verify that we can use. So data is really the foundation of everything that we do. Um, Now, your comment regarding synthetic data is really interesting because a lot of the data that we've been using, and from especially public data on the internet, we're sort of
Mhm.
reaching the end of what's available because even though we have tremendous amounts of data to our disposal, even that's not enough if you want to train this data. To train these algorithms, so we need to move to synthetic data, but we need to be able to ensure that we can trust the synthetic data that we are creating. The advantage of synthetic data is that we can create the data in such a way that it is high quality, that it is trustworthy. We need to be very sure that when we do that, that we have the verification processes in place to make sure that the synthetic data that we have created, that we are using to train our models, is indeed reliable, unbiased, high quality. So for the past decade, the focus has been on data, and I think that's only going to become more and more important. So that component is not going to go away. In fact, I think it will only increase in importance the more we integrate these technologies into our organization to ensure that as humans we stay in the loop, and as humans we have control over the situation.
Valid
It's
point.
very true. I think our first podcast that we did, Martin, was start with the data, wasn't it? Wasn't that the topic?
Yeah,
And I don't think that's
yeah.
changed. We this was way before Chat GPT, I think, was even a thing. So yeah, you're right on point there, Mark. That the data is extremely important, right?
Yeah. So
Um,
just to build on that, John, I mean, the basis of why you would use synthetic data may be not transparent for some of our listeners. Some of the reasons you may use synthetic data is to help balance out bias for gender, balance out bias for ethnicity or social economic class data, also to build out synthetic data sets for testing, which is actually
mhm.
really powerful as opposed to private, personally identifiable information for individuals. So synthetic data can replace personally identifiable information that is, of concern. So that's one of the huge upsides of synthetic data.
Absolutely, and I think that's important to be aware of that. That there is But that's, I guess, that's with every technology. There's, there are very strong upsides, but also risks that come with the data, with the technology, and that's also with synthetic data. We need to make sure that the data that we use to fill the gaps that we have when it comes to bias, when it comes to geographies, when it comes to target groups, that we make sure that is of high quality, and we don't make the biases worse from the perspective.
Very true, very true. And I've always had this hesitancy thinking about, we have AI training AI now in this potential infinite loop, but the human in the loop, the human element is still very much a part of that because of the trustworthiness. So I don't see that that's going to be changing anytime soon.
Well, I hope not, because otherwise,
Right.
if the machines take over and they ditch us, I think we have a bit of a challenge.
Could be a problem. Could be a problem. Let's move forward and get your futurist brain thinking here, which I guess maybe we've already been kind of talking about up to this point, but thinking about trends in AI. And I know we've talked about agentic AI, synthetic data, but is there anything that you see, or maybe you know more than Martin and I about what's happening in 2025 and beyond? But are there any emerging trends that you see that people might not be talking about in AI, or even maybe things that you would anticipate happening within 2025 and beyond that might not currently be in the the news cycle, so to speak?
Yeah, so what I find quite interesting is how AI is becoming better at the reasoning component, and thinking through different processes. As an example, I'm currently using and playing with ChatGPT Pro. So that's the $200 a month subscription, and the way it is reasoning and thinking through the steps and processes, even by giving a very simple prompt, is quite fascinating. So you can see we're definitely making a big leap there. This is still the O1 version, not even the O3 version, which we have been Sam Altman announced like a couple of weeks ago. So it's clearly to see that AI is getting better at reasoning. So we're moving away from some sort of being the parrot, where it just mimics the data that it has given, and it's sort of a mirror of our collective human conscious, to thinking more and reasoning more about the question that it has been asked. And what I find fascinating to see is that quite a few times now, AI have given me like a completely novel approach to something that I was thinking about, which I think is fascinating, and stuff that I am actually incorporating in the work that I do because of that. So I foresee that reasoning capability will improve in 2025, and with that, it will become more useful also in academic research, in innovation, where we can move faster as we develop and invent and innovate in a variety of domains. So I'm very excited about that particular component of when AI moves away from being a parrot to really thinking individually, at a completely different level than we humans think, of course, but to have a different approach. And linked to that is also where we move away from the token approach, where we sort of predict the next word, to a more like a concept approach, where we think in broader terms, like sentences or paragraphs, and how they link with each other to get better insights. So those two components, I think, are related to each other, and they are very fascinating to see how AI will evolve in the next year. And yeah, the change that we'll see in the coming year will be quite quite large and quite significant. I think that's an understatement, and that's, I'm really excited about that.
Excellent. Are there any companies on your radar screen to make aware that we should be watching for 2025?
Well, there's so many new companies that appear on a daily basis. It's impossible to keep up. Apart from the big five, the big 10 AI companies that are pushing really, really hard, and a lot of the startups that follow the big five, the big 10, use the technology of the big 10. So it's everyone is benefiting. I think when it comes to AI, the good thing and the problem here is that the size of the organization and the resources that you have as an organization are directly linked to the progress that you can make, because these developments require so many resources, from human to capital, human capital to actual capital, and that's why these large companies, Anthropic, OpenAI, Meta, Google, or the Chinese counterparts, can move so fast at the moment because they have access to these resources. But that's also really problematic because we get a very centralized, very tiny elite of companies who build all these powerful technologies, and the rest just has to follow, and that's just can only leverage the technology that these big companies are developing. There's no point in naming specific companies, because they might appear new ones tomorrow or disappear the day after, because everything is moving so fast.
I was looking for our stock tip of the day.
Sorry, no financial advice here.
Well, I think maybe the last question, to kind of wrap things up is thinking about a company that is trying to begin, say their AI journey. Is there any advice that you would give to these organizations, like where to begin, where to start their research, maybe where to put their initial investment dollars in as they go down this path to developing AI capabilities within their organization?
Yeah, well, I think that's a very good question, and I think there are three steps to follow. The first one is education, as I already alluded to at the start. Education is crucial, and pitching FutureWise, the company I'm developing, that's an excellent platform to get your education, to get your personalized insights on fast-changing topics. But of course, there are many other platforms where you can find the content. But it is important not only to rely on the mainstream media, because the real insights, the real nuggets of where the signals of where the world is heading is happening on the edges of the internet, and it's not happening in mainstream media. When it's in mainstream media, as an organization, you're already too late. So you need to know what's happening from the edges of the internet. So educate your organization, and that is not only applicable to your leadership team, very much so, but not only. In fact, it also applies to all your employees, because everyone can contribute their own perspective, their own unique way in understanding what's happening. So I think that is really, really important. Once you have started to educate your organization, then it starts to experiment, start playing with these technologies, start using this new technology. As I said, there are dozens of new companies, tools, technologies being launched on a daily basis. So that doesn't mean you need to spend hours and hours or millions of dollars on each tool, but it does mean empowering your staff to play with these tools, to experiment with them, to understand how they have an impact on their specific line of work, their specific department, their specific industry. And once you've done the experimentation, then it moves into the execution phase, where you start developing pilot programs, where you start really implementing these tools within the different processes within your organization. And you learn from that, you share those learnings with the wider organization, and then you build on that. The cycle continues with more education, more experimentation, and more execution. I think that's the best way to start with AI, and to be ready for the massive disruption that's coming.
Excellent. Well, on behalf of John and I, we really thank you for being on Unriveted. We will end our recording here in a moment, but just wanted to say thank you for joining the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Smart.